Welcome back to the study prep, guys. CSEC full course on human and social biology audiobook. Everyone, it is nice to be back with you. Today we will be starting on the CSEC concise revision course. This will be the entire course on the Collins version. This is the new version of the most latest updated version. If you want to get the book, you could actually visit the site at Human and Social Biology Macmillan English, and even for Human and Social Biology also. The link is in the bio. So you could just click it and could easily download it at the link provided. So the contents as on the screen are what we'll be covering: living organisms, photosynthesis, food chains and cycles, the skeletal system and homeostasis, coordination and control, nutrition, the respiratory system, the circulatory system, the reproductive system, the cell division and variation, inheritance and genetic engineering, health and disease, drug use and misuse, pollution and its effects, the cycling and treatment of water, the treatment and disposal of human waste. All of these contents will be covered. A big shout out to my new subscribers, T-Texting Stories, a big shout out to you. Hope Bro, a big shout out to everyone on the screen. My new recent subscriber from at least recently is a big shout out to you, everyone. As on the screen, a big shout out to everyone. So, note to subscribers, I really need to increase the subscriber rate. It's only 4%, so that means 95% of you guys are not subscribed yet. Anyways, guys, all the best. Let's start the CSEC Human and Social Biology audiobook now. Welcome back to the study prep, guys. CSEC, everyone, it is nice to be back with you. I have recently changed my logo, so I just wanted to get that out of the way. Anyways, guys, we will be starting the human and social biology, all terms and concepts. CSEC, this will be a very short course of a lot of videos, which will be approximately around 50 videos, which will be very short videos that deals with all concepts and terms for CSEC, human and social biology. These classes will be usually between 2 to 3 minutes. They will be very short. With that said, let's actually start this paper. Let's actually start the concepts now. So first of all, our agenda within these classes will consist mainly of section 1, section 2, and section 3, which will deal with individual aspects of the entire human and social biology syllabus. So let's look at the introductory concept. We'll start off with the first concept, which is the cell. The cell is the basic unit of all living organisms. It is one of the smallest units of all living organisms. So if we look at the characteristics of cells, there are different parts such as the cell membrane, cytoplasm, nucleus, mitochondria, and the endoplasmic reticulum, ribosome, vacuole cell wall, and chloroplast. Now let's take a look at all of these different parts. The cell membranes controls what substances enter and leave the cell, meaning that they control what enter, what goes in, and what goes out of the cell. The cytoplasm supports the organelles, the site of many chemical reactions. The cytoplasm is where chemical reactions take place within the cell. We have the nucleus, which controls the characteristics and function of the cell, essential for living division. The mitochondrion, which is the powerhouse in most cases, this is where respiration occurs. The endoplasmic reticulum transports substances through the cell. The ribosome, this is where proteins are produced in the plant cell. The vacuole stores food. Cell wall supports and protects the plant cells and gives it a basic definitive shape. And the chloroplast is where photosynthesis occurs. So let's look at cell specialization. You guys could see that on the screen. The human body is composed of trillions of cells. These cells are of different groups, which create specialization, such as the epithelial, sperm or the spermatozoa, the egg, the nerve cells, and the muscle. All of these are created through specialization. So let's look at visual representation of these types of cells. This is section 2, which looks at the actual visual representations of these cells. So the types of cell specialization as seen on the screen, they all have different parts. You guys could take the video and look at the different parts. With that said, this is the final section of this is the questions for the viewers. The questions are on the screen. You guys could actually type your messages in the comments, or you can actually DM me personally for more information. With that said, thank you guys. Subscribe to the Study Prep Guys channel. And welcome back again to the Study Prep Guys channel. This is a continuation of the full course on human and social biology syllabus, the complete syllabus from the human and social biology CSEC subject. So without further ado, we'll start in on the second segment or the second episode of this very, very long continuation that we will have to do for the entire course of human and social biology. Without further ado, let's actually start. We are starting with the second topic on the human and social biology syllabus, which is a very important term, which is osmosis. So the agenda of this video is the definition, the purpose, the function, and a visual illustration and a Q&A for the my subscribers and my audience to actually answer. So what is osmosis in general? Osmosis is the spontaneous movement of solvent molecules. Osmosis in its entirety is the movement or the spontaneous movement of solvents molecules through a semi-permeable membranes from a region of low solute or low concentration to a region of high concentration or region of high solute concentration. So what is the purpose of osmosis in its entirety? So osmosis usually is really important for the regulation or what we consider to be homeostasis, which is the regulation of body temperatures. Without osmosis being in place, the body would in some cases overheat and in some cases be fluctuated. And if we do not have homeostasis, we cannot maintain life. So it's very important that osmosis does occur, and that's its purpose. So let's look at examples of osmosis or a visual illustration of it. So, as I said before, the regulation of temperature, sweating, and chill bumps, etc. That's the real reason for actually osmosis in real life and as relates back to the human race. So with that, let's look at the Q&A. That's some questions that you guys could actually answer. Distinguish between diffusion and osmosis. The questions are right there. Tell me guys what you think in the chat, and this is it for this video. Welcome back to the Study Progress channel, everyone. Today we've taken a look at the food chain. This is episode 3 on the continuation of the human and social biology syllabus, complete syllabus or complete course on human and social biology. Without further ado, let's actually start on the food chain. So a food chain is a diagram showing the flow of food and energy from one organism to the next. Something that needs to be noted is that in the food chain, there are usually tropical levels, usually from producer, primary producer, secondary consumer, the tertiary consumer, and the quaternary consumer. There are basically 5 levels to the tropical levels in the food chain process. So a food chain usually inclusive of a producer. This is an example of this is a green plant, a primary consumer that eats the primary producer, which is the first part of it, a secondary consumer that eats the primary consumer, a tertiary consumer that eats the secondary consumer, and some food chains may also include a quaternary consumer that eats the tertiary. So consumers can be classified mainly into 3 categories: herbivores, which consumes plants or plant materials only; carnivores consumes animals only or animal materials only; and omnivores eat both animal and plants. So a food chain, in its simplest of terms, is a diagram that shows the flow of food, as I said before. So something that you need to note is that energy from sunlight enters living organisms through photosynthesis occurring in green plants. That means the first process or the first person in the food chain, which is the producer, needs to go through photosynthesis to actually produce energy. So these are known as producers. The energy is incorporated into organic food molecules produced by the plants and is passed on to consumers through food chains. Welcome back to the Reverse channel, everyone. Today we've taken a look at the food chain. This is episode 3 on the continuation of the Human and Social Biology syllabus, complete syllabus or complete course on Human and Social Biology. Without further ado, let's actually start on the food chain. So a food chain is a diagram showing the flow of food and energy from one organism to the next. Something that needs to be noted is that in the food chain, there are usually tropical levels, usually from producer, primary producer, secondary consumer, the tertiary consumer, and the quaternary consumer. There are basically five levels to the tropical levels in the food chain process. So a food chain usually inclusive of a producer. This is an example of this is a green plant, a primary consumer that eats the primary producer, which is the first part of it, a secondary consumer that eats the primary consumer, a tertiary consumer that eats the secondary consumer, and some food chains may also include a quaternary consumer that eats the tertiary. So consumers can be classified mainly into three categories: herbivores, which consumes plants or plant materials only; carnivores consumes animals only or animal materials only; and omnivores eat both animal and plants. So a food chain, in its simplest of terms, is a diagram that shows the flow of food, as I said before. So something that you need to note is that energy from sunlight enters living organisms through photosynthesis occurring in green plants. That means the first process or the first person in the food chain, which is the producer, needs to go through photosynthesis to actually produce energy. So these are known as producers. Energy is incorporated into organic food molecules produced by the episode 4, which deals with nutrition on the entire CSEC syllabus for human and social biology. This is the Study Prep Guys podcast on human and social biology, full course on CSEC Human and Social Biology Prep 2026, May, June, and January. With that said, let's actually start. So, first of all, let's look at the definition of what nutrition is. Nutrition is a process by which living organisms make or create food, say in general. If you were to look at what type of nutrition there is, there are many, like for example, carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. But mainly for this class, we'll take a look at carbohydrates. Carbohydrates include reducing sugars, non-reducing sugars, and starch. They are molecules composed of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms. The rule of hydrogen atoms, oxygen atoms is always 2 to 1. So that means the ratio between hydrogen atoms, oxygen atoms is usually 2:1. That's why we have H2O. Based on their chemical structure, carbohydrates can be classified into three groups mainly, and that is monosaccharides, disaccharides, and polysaccharides. Monosaccharides are the simplest carbohydrate molecule, meaning that the mono being basic, mono being one. So they have the formula C6H12O6. All monosaccharides are reduced in sugars. So we have something called disaccharides, which are formed, or which are basically two, di being two, are formed by chemically joining two monosaccharides molecules together. They have the formula C12H12O11 or oxygen 11. All disaccharides are reduced in sugars except sucrose, which is a non-reducing sugar. Then we have polysaccharides are formed by joining many monosaccharide molecules into straight or branch change. Polysaccharides include starch, cellulose, and glycogen, animal starch. So these are basically, at least from what you could see on the screen, the types of carbohydrates if we were to look at them from a subatomic level, which is if you were to look at it from the singular monosaccharide molecules to the two monosaccharides, which is basically a disaccharides. We have condensation process, which is a joining molecules with the loss of water, and we have hydrolysis, which is splitting molecules by adding water. So condensation is a joining together of molecules with the loss of water. Hydrolysis is the splitting molecules by adding water. So one is joining and one is actually splitting or actually dividing. So if you were to look at the properties of these different carbohydrates, If you look at, for example, at the carbohydrate, which is reducing agents, or you look at the reduced agents, all of them have a sweet taste, soluble in water, and react with the Benedict solution, meaning that they spread out. And within this part, we usually have the glucose, fructose, um, galactose, maltose, and lactose. And then we have the non-reducing sugars. They have a sweet taste, soluble in water. However, they do not react with the Benedict solution. And this is the only exception, which is the sucrose or a disaccharide. If we look at starch, they are does not have a sweet taste, meaning that it has sour or very bitter taste, and it's basically insoluble in water, and it reacts with the iodine solution. However, the iodine solution and the Benedict solution, just to note, are totally two different things. So let's look at recognizing carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids. So something to note that is very important is that for every different reaction, tests can be actually deduced to identify carbohydrates, protein, and lipids. Apart from the test for lipids, the tests are usually carried out on about 2 centimeter cube of solution of the test substance, meaning that it's carried out in a test tube. Example of this, just skip that. Just to note, guys, you could just look at that. This is the tests and results or positive results that would usually be inclusive if the test is to be successful, or some ways you could actually look at it. I will make a separate video on this here, but you guys could just take a look and tell me what you think about it in the comments below. Let's go on. This is the Benedict solutions, and this is the iodine solutions. As I said before, they're totally two different tests in general. Reducing sugars from an orange red precipitate with Benedict solution, and starch turns iodic solutions blue black. So you could take that into that consideration. So note, the food and animals eat is called a diet. So something a lot of students probably miss happen is that they get mixed up with what a diet actually is. If you want to make it simpler for yourself, the food an animal eat is called a diet. I want you to when you utilize the term animal, this is both for Homo sapiens, which is humans, and all creatures on earth. It's a more unilateral term, meaning that it actually subdivides into all categories of humans and all categories of animals, because humans in a basic try basic sense are animals. Anyways, let's look at the definition, and this is the last piece of note that we have on nutrition, which is a balanced diet. So humans must consume a balanced diet every day. This could include starch, legumes. It could also include fruits, vegetables, fats, and oils, and staples and food from animals. All of these are necessary in order for human beings to survive and actually have a healthy lifestyle and healthy body. All of the following on the table, or at least on the circular table there, are vital for the human being to actually maintain proper proportions, supply the food with enough energy for daily activities, and the correct materials for growth and development. With that said, the source for this is the Concise Revision course. This is the new edited Collins version of the CSEC Human and Social Biology syllabus. So you guys could know that you're getting the information from the right source. This source is only explanatory. It could also be unilaterally for other students of other categories, including SCT and other sections, but this is purely for CSEC students. It could be utilized for other students, but for the moment, it's mainly CSEC. Anyways, guys, see you in the next video. All the best. Of the CSEC Human and Social Biology audio book for HSB CSEC 2026, and also May, June, and January. So we'll be looking at three main sections, or four to be precise: air, land, water, and environmental effects and causes of water pollution, or even agricultural effects. So what is pollution and what are its effects exactly? But we need to start off on the most basic part, which is pollution. Pollution is the unfavorable alteration of the environment by the release of harmful substances or forms of energy into the environment. A pollutant is a harmful substance or form of energy that causes unfavorable changes to the environment. Based on their origin, pollutants can be classified into domestic, agricultural, and industrial pollutants. Domestic includes those things that you could usually find in your house. They could also be inclusive of garbage, like household food waste. Agricultural pollutants could be in the form of pesticides and fertilizers, while industrial pollutants, these are pollutants that are released from industry. It could also be in the form of carbon dioxide, oxides of nitrogen, smoke, dust, and other particulate matter that is released in factory and industrial areas. So let's look at air pollution. So air pollution results from the release of harmful substances or forms of energy into the atmosphere. Many cities experience air pollutions associated with industrial activities such as energy production in power plants and processing of materials as well as the operation of numerous motor vehicles in cities. Air pollution in rural areas is often associated with agricultural practices such as land clearance by slash and burn. So if you were to put it in more simplest of sense, any negative thing that you put in the atmosphere or is released into the atmosphere, mostly gases, if that is released into the atmosphere and is negatively affecting the ozone layer, that is defined as an air pollutant. So they're mainly at their. I'll just put up three for now because you don't need to know everything, right? Like I mean, like literally everything. You just need to know the main things, right? So first of all, let's start off with carbon dioxide. So usually we find carbon dioxide in motor vehicles, power plants, industry, and burning of fossil fuels. These are mainly the three areas that you would usually or the origination of carbon dioxide. Carbon monoxide, you could also find this in motor vehicles. This is also in industries and burning fossil fuels. But most of all, or more importantly, it could also be found in cigarettes. Sulfur dioxide is usually from fossil fuels, burning of fossil fuels, and industry and power plants. You could usually get, or sulfur dioxide is usually released in those productive processes. So let's look at controlling air pollutants. To reduce the use of fossil fuels by using alternative energy sources, you guys could take a look at the rest. I'll give you a few minutes to pause the video and you guys could take a look at the rest of points. Now let us start at water pollution now. So water pollution results from the release of harmful substances or forms of energy into a body of water. What we're basically trying to say is that anything that you put in the water that negatively affects aquatic and human life is defined as water pollution. Let me just repeat that again. Any negative externalities that you place in the water that negatively impacts the human race or aquatic life is defined as water pollution. At least that's my own personal definition in the most unilateral of senses. So some causes of water pollution is suspended solids, plant nutrients, example nitrates and phosphorus, organic matter, pesticides, heavy metal ions, example mercury and lead, pathogens and heat. You guys could see the origins and its effects on the environment. So with that said, let's move on, guys. So let's look at least three measures of controlling water pollution. I will definitely not read all of this or look through all of this, but you guys could pause the video and take a look at it, just read through it. It's right there. You guys could just read it right where you are right now. So first of all, let's start out with carrying out proper treatment of sewage. This could be in the form of chlorination or in the form of filtration in order to keep the harmful materials and even negative externalities to a minimum. Secondly, we have compost, plant waste such as vegetable pitches and crop residues. This could be in the form of placing them in designated areas in order for reuse, or the 3 R's: reuse, recycle, and stuff like that. So we could actually put it in certain designated areas in order to increase cleanliness, in order to increase environmental friendliness. And then thirdly is mainly implementing pass laws with strict penalties, and this usually, as a result, would result in a lot of people not wanting to commit the act of water pollution. When there are strict laws and when there are penalties, people or anyone in general won't want to be involved in water pollution, which as a result or as a direct result will lower water pollution extremely low. So this is the question for the viewers, guys. You could look at these questions and answer them in your own time. Even if you answer one question out of these, just type it in the comments. I will reply and I see if you're okay, so I could give you a response. Anyways, those are the questions, guys. Just take a look at it. And yes, that is it for this class. Something to note, my fellow subscribers. Please subscribe. I really appreciate it. I really want to increase the subscriber base. And with all of that said and done, see you guys out. So the Guys channel. It is nice to be back with you. Today we'll be starting Human and Social Biology, Paper 1, General Proficiency. I don't really do a lot of papers in relation to HSB, but for today it will be quite different. So anyways, let's start without further ado. So I did answer up to question 10. We will answer the remaining questions up to question 60. But for today, we'll be answering question 1 to 60. So which of the following cell structure does photosynthesis take place? We don't already know that the cell structure whereby photosynthesis does take place is the chloroplast. It cannot be the powerhouse because the powerhouse is actually, or the mitochondrion, which is known as the powerhouse. We don't definitively know that it can be that. The Golgi body, that's totally unrelated to photosynthesis, and the ribosome is just a part within the cell structures. So those three answers are out immediately. So let's look at this question here. And diffusion, I did discuss it in the last live stream. Diffusion is the actual spreading out or the condensation of a substance throughout the whole submergence of a water or a body of water. So I give you an example. If you actually put dye in a bottle of water, that dye will spread out throughout the whole water, to say essentially. So we could get a basic justified idea from that. So in the human body, the process demonstrated in the diagram above occur between alveoli and blood capillaries. That's where diffusion usually occurs. It cannot avoid in the trachea or the esophagus. It cannot really occur in the skin or the hair, and it cannot it could occur in the blood, but not the brain. So diffusion occurs in the alveoli and the capillaries. The alveoli is part of your the breathing or is part of the respiratory system, whereby the process of breaking down and spreading out essential proteins such as carbohydrates and these micromolecules are part of that where it actually spreads that out. So in the food chain, above the primary producer is the phytoplankton. The reason for this is that it holds the most power. So this is just an example. I know if you guys could see it on the screen, but this is an example of what we call a triangular diagram. So as we go up, power decreases. So at the bottom, we start off with the most power, which is the primary producer. And then at the second stage, that's the secondary, and then the tertiary producer. And as we go up, it gets the power dynamics get essentially decreases. So for here, it says item 5 refers to the following diagram showing a leaf from a discharged potted plant. The plant is exposed to sunlight for a few days and the leaf is removed and tested for starch. The color of the part labeled X would most likely be brown. As I said before, if like for example you take a leaf and you put that leaf in a container that is full with water and you put bleach, the color of the plant will become white, and it is not in relation to that. Green. And we don't know that when we left plant on probably a tree, it remains green because it having the essential nutrients that it does need. So it says remove and test it for starch. The color of the part labeled X would most likely be brown. So if it exposed to light for a few days, we would usually see brown plants everywhere we walk. And the reason for that is because it is basically left without nutrients, and when a plant is left without nutrients, it develops a brown color. So let's read this. Item 67 refer to the full information of on body masses index BMI. Person I, height 145, weight 36, and BMI 17, I 1.55, etc. You guys could basically see it. So it says here the BMI categories are as follows: underweight 18.5, normal weight 18.5 to 24.9, overweight 25 to 29.9, obese you would probably be around 30. So which of the following person is considered overweight? I believe it's very easy because if you look at it 25 to 29, and if you look at I here, we have 27, right? No, let me see. Yes, overweight. 25 to 29. The person to be overweight in this category is here. I. That's the only answer you could presumptuously get. So, just have to read the question properly. So, the answer for this part here is I, and we did say that obese been around 30. Let me see if they ask any question like that. The person in the normal weight category, normal weight, they said the normal weight is 18.5 to 24.9. That's right here. The normal weight would be right here. So the answer for this is the 54 category. Hopefully, you guys could see that. So, which of the following diseases is caused by a lack of vitamin A, night blindness, and which of the following is used to test for sugar in cereals? That is Benedict solution. Water is required by all living things in order to transport substances. Without water, you cannot transport substances or essential substances through the body. And without water in general, that could lead to overall of deaths in the entire world. So diarrhea most likely tends to, is what question 11, leads to dehydration because your body's not getting the essential nutrients that it needs, basically to say. Um, a sample of pepsin taken from the stomach will not function in the small intestine because of what options do we have there? Small intestine has a different pH from the stomach. That's something that you need to note. A sample of pepsin taken from the stomach will not function in the small intestine because the small intestine has a higher alkalinic or a alkalinic solution in comparison to the pH in the stomach. So if you look at the pH scale, we don't know that here is 0 and up. It has a scale of 0 to 14. I probably can't get to write it exactly well, but from 0 to 14, if you look at that, we take 0 to 14 into consideration. The the basically basicity or alkalinity is around 4, while the pH level, at least for the stomach, is at least around 9 to 14. So that's something we could basically take into consideration. So they have a different pH entirely, and that is what will probably result in the overall situation. So the answer for this is D. If you guys have anything different, you could tell me in the comments below. So where are we now? 13. The part labeled Y is responsible for the digestion of, this one is very simplistic. Protein. Part label Y. That is usually for a transport of protein. If you guys have anything else different, you could tell me in the comments. It cannot be fats, cannot be sugar, and it cannot be starch. So we will leave it with that for now. So which of the following foods is an excellent source of protein? That would be the liver. Liver is an excellent source of protein. We usually eat protein all the time. People say, "Do you eat liver?" I say yes, and it's an excellent source of protein for that reason. Which of the following structures of the tooth provides a surface for biting and crushing foods? This one is the crown. The crown is the biggest structure of the teeth. It's something like this here. It's basically very big and it's used for crushing foods. The all of these other terms are unrelated. Matter of fact, all these rest of the terms don't even make sense. The root, that doesn't make sense in that case. The cement is basically the thing that makes your teeth stay where it is, or it makes your teeth have stability. And the pulp cavity is a thing like it's basically roots in your teeth. So root, cement, pulp cavity all of these terms are unrelated and they 100% cannot be right. So the only answer for 15 is actually B. So it says here, item 16 refers the following graph. Percent saturation of oxyhemoglobin. We have 76 to 50 go down like that. It says which statement best explain the data illustrated by the graph. Smoking increases and then decreases the lungs carrying capacity for blood. I believe you could basically see that. So non-smoker, smoker could basically see the information right there. Wait, I think I got something incorrect. Let me just look back at this here. Wait, I made a bit of a mistake. The answer for this is smoking reduce the oxygen carrying capacity for blood. Yes. So let's take a look back. 17 now. Item 17 refers the following diagram, which shows the final stage of the procedure for mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. What is the fourth step that must be taken in order to perform the procedure successfully? The actual answer to this is place the person on his back and press back his forehead with one hand. Yes, that's it. For 18, which are following are dependent. That's all three. Which are following are dependent on anaerobic, which anaerobic meaning that it does not require oxygen and respiration. Preparation of dough, that, yes, all of those. Yeah, now 19. Gaseous exchange takes place at, that would be C right here. It would be right here. Gaseous exchange. 20. The oxygen carrying capacity of red blood cells is facilitated by the presence of hemoglobin. Yes, correct. That is right. It can be the presence of platelets, it can be the size of red blood cells, and it can be the absence of nuclei in the cells. Oh, where are we now? All right, we're at 21. The function of valves in the heart is to C. Prevent the backflow of blood. Which of the following components of blood transports urea? That is the plasma. The human circulatory system transports what? What do you guys think? The actual answer this is nutrients, nitrogenous waste, and oxygen. Yes. Where we know 24. Which of the following is a function of the lymph nodes? Filtration, destruction of harmful organisms. Which of the following statements about the adaptation to the skeleton for our movements are true? It's actually all three of these here. It's actually all three. So the answer for this would be D essentially. Alright, we already know 26. We're already halfway, people. We're already halfway. So let's keep on moving down the line. Which of the following is the most severe damage caused by the prolonged wearing of high-heeled shoes? Misalignment of the bones in the feet. That could be a very much consequence, a negative consequence of prolonged wearing. It can be the wideness space between the toes. It can be the development of corns. It could be development of corn, but if you're reading it over time very long, it could really cause misalignment or the misalignment of actually the bones essentially. So a ball and socket joint is located in the where arm meets the shoulder. Yes. So here we know. Guys could probably hardly see this here. The part label X right here, that is the Bowman's capsule. Where we know 29. After 30, we will stop here and we will start another one answering the remaining 30 questions. If you guys like videos like this, subscribe. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. The main function of the vertebral column is to protect the spinal cord. It's easy as that. The ability of the human body to maintain a constant internal environment is called We call that homeostasis. So, anyways, people, thank you for watching the video. Subscribe to the Study Prep Guys channel, the Study Prep Guys CSEC, and I will see you guys on the next video.